let's go to what governors are doing, specifically Democratic governors, because there are people who aren't completely rolling over. And those include people like Gavin Newsom, Mr. Bruce Wayne himself. Here he is pictured, if you're listening, reading Beloved by Toni Morrison. I don't know why or who this is for, but some people really pine for their Newsom, Gavin Newsom, who is basically, I mean, he's like, in my opinion, more corporate than Kamala Harris, more full of it. But he makes his name being anti-Trump. So this really is his time to shine. And honestly, if he can actually protect some Californians, I'm with it. So interestingly, he's in DC today. He flew there Monday to spend 36 hours meeting with the White House and the California congressional delegation. A spokesperson traveling with the governor said focus areas include disaster funding, approval of state healthcare initiatives aimed at improving access to health and mental health care for Californians, and crucial climate and clean air efforts. Okay, Newsom. Okay. So he's basically like, listen, Joe, you got, 60 days, 70 days. Can you give us some money? And also, BT Dubs, you owe us money. There's a little bit more from this Politico article. Newsom has vowed to make California a leader of the resistance against Trump's second term, especially when it comes to disagreements over the state's voter ID and climate laws, as well as protections for patients seeking abortion and LGBTQ plus rights. He also, he also says that FEMA owes California money in reimbursements for $5.2 billion in emergency coronavirus relief spending by the state and local governments that could be in jeopardy. That's on top of the untold amount of California's budget that Newsom wants to set aside to backfill any lost disaster aid. Again, we remember under Trump, the first time he visits California during wildfire season, there's multiple fires raging. He's like, you've got to clean all this stuff up, and deliberately threatening states with relief funding should they have things like sanctuary programs for migrants. So that's what he's doing. There's a little bit more on, and this is an interesting, before we move to them, let's go to Karen Bass. So Karen Bass is the mayor of Los Angeles, and Bass didn't know that actually LA has no sanctuary laws to protect undocumented immigrants. Eric Garcetti, former mayor, God, I can't even think about him without wanting to kind of like puke in my mouth. He signed an executive directive, but that was never voted into law. Bass said that needs to change before Donald Trump is sworn in as president. Quote, I was actually surprised about that because I thought we were a sanctuary city for years, she said. So what's the difference? What's the difference is the policies that were put in place were not permanent policies. So I imagine that the council will be voting on sanctuary cities hopefully very, very soon. And we can hope with her that that is the case. It doesn't instill that much faith that she's like, I didn't know we were in a sanctuary city. But, this is important. Here's a different tone from the states that went red. Michigan, Pennsylvania, every effing swing state somehow. Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan said in a statement she hopes Trump leads by trying to unite people, including those who did not vote for him and or do not support him. As we move forward, let's remember we are a nation of good, kind people that have more in common with each other than not. Finally, let's root for the success of the new administration and keep working together to get things done. And Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania said something similar. He said he will never back down from standing up for the freedoms I was elected to protect. But he also said that now this election is over. It's time to govern, to work together, to compromise, and to get stuff done. Chloe, one can understand why they're striking that tone, but I cannot find anything in the history of this man that shows us he will take a conciliatory view of the people that don't support him or these Democratic governors. Like, are we being a little naive here?
Okay, so what this is that the old establishment, like the old political guard, they have no idea what they're in for, because at the end of the day, they always operate with a place of like decorum, right? That's why whenever you would watch like the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we as civilians would be like, they're all friends. They're just shaking hands and kissing and being like, how's the wife and kids?
Right.
But those days are over because Trump has ushered in a whole wave of people who were never a part of the establishment, and they're not going to adhere to these rules, and they're not going to do these backdoor deals, and they don't give a damn how long your family has been in politics. They're not operating by the same rules. They're coming in here to undo everything that has been done because that is what he's told his people he's here to do.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that there is some truth that there needs to be a major shift in the system. I don't believe that he is a person to rightfully do that because of his own nefarious, relationships and personal drive. But the American people are signing up for it because they do feel like, hey, this two-party system is not servicing us. And so for as long as the Democrats continue to be delusional, and think that they can reach across the aisle, they don't understand. This is about to turn into Gotham City. They about to blow up. They about to blow up the bridges to America and fucking make us their goddamn slaves. So we need to wake up, people. Like, this is my first time talking about this because I've been so apprehensive about what to say, and I really want to be clear in saying that, like, if you are not one of the rich of the rich who can afford to move to Mars, you need to understand that they are going to constantly chip away at our freedoms because they want to make more profit. That's all this is about. This is not about race or religion. This is not about trans rights. It's about a small group of people controlling a large amount of people for their own personal interests. We are just like pieces on a board to them. Like, they don't care about us. That's why, like, what Bernie says, like, I think what Bernie is saying with Nancy, it's like, there was a point where they may have cared about the constituents, but once Trump entered, it wasn't about the constituents. It was about beating Trump, period. Yeah. That was it. And so there was no reason for them to even come up with a policy because the policy was, we gonna beat Trump, period. And as many times as Kamala and her friends was texting me the Sunday before election, they never text me no policies. They never text me no points of where I need to understand where she's changing her path from Biden to make her a more viable candidate. Right. They kept asking me for money. So if you keep playing in our faces, you need to realize that we're going to leave you, abandon you to fight this fight on your own because you're not listening to us. And we've been saying the same thing for decades.
Right. And then again, like again and again and again, you roll over and you say, well, we can work with this person. And I got to say, just like on the branding thing, I've been saying this, and this is in part why I don't think, and I know it's like sad to say, but just on a branding level, the Democrats and the Democratic Party are so dead in the water. The brand is trash. I'm sorry. Like, obviously, Donald Trump's brand is actual trash, but you know what I mean? Like, it is not captivating to anybody. There's no like grand plans that are exciting to people. There's no, once again, countervailing vision and narrative that can actually be a counter to this fascism that we see, on the horizon and really at the door. And so, yeah, it's to your point, like, they keep playing in our faces, and you see the amount of money that Kamala Harris is like still owes, like they are in debt. And the celebrity endorsements. And look, I haven't seen good reporting, i.e. all of the reporting I've seen about the amount of money that might have been wasted in the Harris campaign is all coming from like the right. But if once the audit is complete and we can see, okay, you actually did spend all this money to like project Kamala Harris's face on the dome in Vegas versus door knocking versus Spanish language outreach versus, yes, really like $6,000 in your pocket for the first year of your kid's life or whatever, to families. It is, it's just weak. It's weak sauce. And this is what I was going to say. If you're on the right now, or let's say you voted for Trump, but you voted for Biden, but you went back to Trump or whatever, and you see the Democrats capitulate, that doesn't instill like excitement or intrigue in you. That's just like, oh, like, oh, you
see them doing their game. You see them being like, we're available for sale, and you're like, ew, gross.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.